G'day, mate, and welcome to Friday Facts 333. Lots of threes. We got terrain scrolling, and we have a scrolling mojo. Hey, mate.
Hello. It's a very short one today. Thanks for watching.
It is. It's going to be hopefully our shortest Friday Facts ever. Also, I have to admit, it's probably one of the most boring ever.
It's pretty boring, yeah.
Not like full of technical stuff and you just don't understand any of it, because...
Oh yeah, like that technical one where I spent like an hour trying to understand it and almost fell asleep reading.
Yeah, like the technical ones that you don't understand, that's a you problem. This is just a short, really, really short. And something that's only going to affect you if you're playing Factorio on a 10-year-old laptop. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this week they released 18.4, which is actually really slow for Woo, but then they haven't had that many bugs to fix, so they haven't had that much to do. More bugs, more changes. The release changelog was really, really short.
I have a feeling that's something to do with the fact that, part of it is to do with the fact they're not doing big changes anymore, and also because there wasn't a year between releases, so they don't need to do massive hotfix on top.
Well, it wasn't a year between releases, but it was close.
Yeah, it was pushing close.
Yeah.
But what I mean is like 14 to 15, 15 to 16, 16 to 16.
Yeah,
those are all more than a year apart.
And more than a year apart, with a lot of stuff going on in the background and giving people a reason to update to the latest version. In my case, I have only just updated to 18 for my personal series in like the last couple of days, because all the mods finally got updated. For 16 to 17, I'm pretty sure whatever series I was doing, I just died right there and then and started a brand new series in 17 because the changes were all big and it was worth the change. In 18, it's a little bit more shiny. The sounds are all really wrong, but they have changed some of the sounds in 18.4, so maybe they're better.
Something I still need to review, so I've got to get onto that. Surprised they're not even talking about the sound changes, actually.
I'm sort of surprised too. I was sort of expecting something in the sound changes and what we're doing in regards to sounds, because I've at least seen us eating streaming during the week doing code, and he's been playing with sound. He's also been playing with lots of other things that we'll hopefully read about in future Friday Facts. But yeah.
Ooh, things
are definitely happening. So, we have 18 minor terrain render optimizations by Priscilla. So, this is a little bit dry, and really, like I said, it's only going to affect you if you're running Factorio on a 10-year-old computer, which is possible. It's one of those things that's great about Factorio, that you can run it on really old hardware without a problem. So, just a couple of days before the release of 18, he had an epiphany about the terrain rendering problem that was bugging him for a really, really long time. When rendering the terrain, they reused the texture from the previous terrain. How this was always done, it would render the texture shifted to a new position, fill up the gaps, and then copy the final result back into the texture for reuse in the next frame. So basically, if you moved half a screen to the left, they keep the half a screen that they'd already rendered previous frame, copy it off somewhere, render the other half that's all brand new, and then copy it back onto your screen. And yeah, this simple operation would result in rasterizing 2 screens worth of pixels. So you got the original screen, plus you've got the new data for the new screen, and it's not really a problem for half-decent GPUs from the past decade. It's significant work for integrated GPUs. So we're really talking about those poor people that haven't put any sort of graphics card in their computer. Now, with a PC, that's pretty easy to do.
Well, it assumes it's a PC, too.
We're talking about the Mac people.
A lot of laptops don't come with GPUs, remember?
Well, yeah, that was my next sentence. So, yeah, if you're on a PC, you can always add a graphics card fairly easy. If you're on a laptop, bad luck, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, like on a PC, even like a 1050, and you're rolling in it.
You don't even need a 1050. Like, literally go on to any website and buy the cheapest graphics card possible. It's going to be better than your integrated graphics card.
Unless it's a 1030.
Even then, it's probably going to be better.
No, you actually can do worse. You can do like 1030 is just abysmal.
You can do worse. Well, there you go.
Yeah, you can do worse if you really try.
Look, I haven't played with integrated graphics cards for years, and I haven't been in the market where I've had to actually buy like a bottom rate graphics card for an office computer just to have multiple screens, because that's what a lot of offices used to do. They'd be like, nope, we want 2 screens. Well, you can't run integrated graphics anymore. You've got to buy a graphics card. It adds X dollars to the price. Anyway, so they use an extreme example here, and this is extreme. It's an Intel HD Graphics 3000, an integrated GPU on the Sandy Bridge CPU architecture. And we had to look this up to find out when it was released.
Actually, I bought my Sandy Bridge PC in the middle of 2011.
So he bought his in 2011. I bought mine after the fact. I bought the Ivy Bridge, which was the next step up.
Yeah, that was 2013, I believe.
2013, 2014, somewhere there. The Franken PC is an Ivy Bridge architecture. Even then, I'm not running on integrated GPU. But yeah, when you sit still, the terrain can be used without shifting. It would take just 2 milliseconds to copy it to the game view. Now, when we say 2 milliseconds, every frame has 16.66 milliseconds or less to be rendered. So 2 milliseconds is a little bit of time, but when you start to move, the GPU time to render could go up to 5 milliseconds, which is about a third of the time that the GPU has to render the whole screen. And we're talking...
That's actually almost a third of your entire UPS pool right there.
Well,
5 milliseconds.
It's the graphics pool, which is separate from the UPS pool, but very heavily tied to one another.
It's tied to it because the game update has to wait for that.
It does it?
Yeah. So, well, it might have, I believe it's changed a little bit. It actually, it does go on to say, yeah, it's 1/3 of the frame, which is the 16.667 milliseconds, which is it counts for 60 FPS. So yeah, if you use up that 16.667, if you go over it, that's when the UPS goes down.
That is when the UPS goes down for your CPU guaranteed. The GPU, I think the GPU can drop under without too much hassle, but you end up wasting computations because you can't just tell the game just render every second frame. It ends up trying to render the first frame. It gets the first frame out in the time it takes to do 2 or 3 frames. Then you get the 4th frame, then you get the 8th frame, then you get the 12th frame, and so on and so forth.
Well, the frame update's locked to the UPS, so it has to throw away UPS to...
Yeah, it does. It ends up making the data and throwing it out the window because it's too old now. But yeah, compared to a modern, and they put modern, a GTX 750 Ti or a Radeon R7 360 can do the exact same thing in under half a millisecond compared to what this very old integrated GPU can. Now, I did look up both these cards, and both these cards have gone from the point of being cheap to being expensive again because they're rare.
There's a funny way that PC hardware works. As it happens, I have a 750 GT in my i3 pin.
I threw out a GTX 6-something, a 9-something, another 9-something, and I haven't had a Radeon card for I don't know how many years.
I'm pretty sure I have an R270 somewhere.
Or
290.
This is the sort of hardware that most people would just throw out. They wouldn't even try and remarket it. Turns out if you look on eBay, they are available. They are in the $100 to $500 price range, according to eBay.
Yeah, but that's eBay.
It is eBay, but it's sort of the only place you get ancient parts still listed. Like I said, they got so old, their value's actually gone up. So yeah,
it's like the original 8800s. They skyrocketed because it turned out you could reflash those with the Quadro BIOS, so everyone lusted after them.
Oh yes.
This was back when Sandy Bridge was a thing.
Yeah. So the realization that Priscilla had was he he could scroll the buffer texture around if you remember the offset from the top left-hand corner, and I could unscroll it to the game view instead of copying all the terrain back to the buffer and then adjust the offset and update the parts that changed. So we can see by this really hard to watch GIF, and I really hope you've been paying attention the whole time, it's literally just loading in the new data in just the places it needs it, and then sort of unscrambling it when it writes it to the screen.
So it's only updating the parts that it needs to, and it's also doing a wraparound, which is where it really gets mind-bending.
Yeah, it's the wraparound part that is it's making it hard for me to understand what's going on, and it's one of the reasons I've been sitting here for 20 minutes waiting for Mojo, watching this loop, and I'm like, I now understand it after the 380th loop. But
see, the trick is to right-click on it and then hover over play speed and click on set it to
0.5. Show controls.
Or slower.
I don't have a speed.
Really?
Nope. I can show controls. I have a play. I have a full screen, and I have a sound. That's it.
Well, if you're on Firefox, then you can right-click and choose play speed.
This is another reason I should look at a different browser. Anyway.
You're using Chrome, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, there's a problem.
So, that's what he's done, and he does say, look, most people wouldn't notice this optimization. As far as GPUs are concerned, this is a nothing. It really, really is a nothing. A brand new or a reasonably new graphics card will have done the unoptimized thing in a fraction of a millisecond. But he was just really, really happy that it was one thing that was just nagging on the back of his mind that he finally got fixed. And also, integrated GPUs are a lot faster than the ones from the Sandy Bridge, because that's 9 years old now, which is, I think that's about when they started introducing integrated graphics into the CPU, wasn't it?
The 3000 was the first series that demonstrated that integrated graphics were actually not just a joke. It's the first time you actually had one that could do something.
Yeah, because prior to that, you'd have graphics on the motherboard, which is fine for
those
running.
Things were comical.
They were fine for running Windows. That's basically as far as you got. You didn't get anything above we can run Windows. That's it. But yeah, it's he does bring in a point, and while it might not be much advantage to render the game for them, they do share some resources with CPU, be it the last level of the cache or the CPU cooler, so the integrated GPU working hard may cause the CPU to slow down, which is something I hadn't thought about, because Factorio is one of those games you can run it on a potato, and I have lots of people that do run it on a potato, and yes, if that integrated GPU has to work harder, even if it's keeping up, there is a chance it's dumping extra heat into the heatsink, which means the CPU can't turbo as fast as it could to maybe keep you at that 60-60 that you're always striving for. So yeah,
certainly the case, because I don't remember the exact number, but on average, most integrated graphics dies around like a third to a half. I want to say around a half, but I think it's a little bit less or a little bit more. Might actually be a little bit more. I know they're huge in terms of silicon.
In terms of silicon, I think they're a bit more than half.
It might actually be more than half. Oh, someone will comment.
Somebody will definitely correct us in the comments. It is one of the reasons why top-end CPUs, like I've got a 9900K, which has an integrated graphics card. Or integrated graphics chip, an APU. I don't use it, but they've released whatever the version is now. I think it's a P version, which doesn't have the integrated graphics chip, which is less silicon, that even though I'm not using it, is still drawing some sort of power, it's still putting out some sort of heat, all that sort of stuff. So in theory, the new chips can overclock faster, they're cooler, blah, 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 blah.
Turbo faster and all that.
Yeah.
See, mine doesn't even come with integrated graphics. It's just like, nope. And mine didn't even come with a cooler, actually, as well. I was like, nope, you're on your own.
That's all right. Mine didn't come with a cooler, and I haven't used a stock cooler for... Actually, I think the Franken PC did. Yeah, I think the Franken PC did, because I just didn't care at that point.
Ironically, the last time I got an Intel processor with a cooler was the Sandy Bridge 2600. The 5820 didn't come with one, and the 8700K didn't come with
No. So yeah, what else? He want to point out illustrating how by this post how broad range of GPUs there are. People see a 2D game and expect to play it on essentially anything, which we've already said. They want to live up to that expectations. They impose a lot of limitations on themselves because anything also includes a couple of orders of magnitude slower GPU, and found that average. Than found in an average gaming computer nowadays. CPUs got a lot faster in the last decade too, but mostly due to increasing the number of cores and adding wider vector computation units. They didn't get that much faster when executing serial code, which is unfortunately most of Factorio's game code. So if you play the game on a laptop with a Core 2 Duo and a GeForce 320M, you run into frame rate issues due to weak GPU much sooner than you run into a UPS slowdown due to the old CPU. And, well, okay, so do you still have your Sandy Bridge?
Yeah.
And what's it clock in at core speed wise?
Yes.
Okay, so I have my Ivy Bridge, which is a year later. All right, it clocks in at 3.
Pretty sure it's 2012, which would be, well, 2 years later.
Yeah, 1 to 2 years later, whatever. It clocks in at 3.4 gigahertz, and I think it boosts to 3.6. My machine, 9900K, so what, a last year model CPU. I think it starts at 4.4 and boosts up to 4.9 gigahertz. So you're talking maybe a 20% improvement in CPU over almost a decade. In pure single-threaded applications, whereas GPUs, well, in a decade,
3.4 gigahertz mine. Oh wow, 1066 megahertz. That's right.
Oh yeah. Don't look up your old CPUs. You get scared at what sort of low-end specs we used to use 10 years ago. But yeah, look, CPUs haven't scaled that much. Like in a decade, they've gone up core gigahertz wise about 20%.
Yeah, 20. Well, not so much the Sandy Bridge, because there was some microcode optimizations going on. I think
there's always
once you get into like the 4th gen and onwards. I mean, well, I should also point out that like the Sandy Bridge and onwards had some huge power savings. Like the Ivy Bridge is basically that, but massive power savings because that was what got you your 12-hour laptops, if you remember those.
Oh yeah. Right.
I think there was some microcode stuff going on with the 4th gen, but beyond that, it's mostly just power saving and spreading the load with more cores.
Yeah,
actual threaded.
There's always microarchitecture speed ups and that sort of stuff, and they get more cache, which means they can handle larger things a little bit faster, which Factorio definitely takes a benefit from. But I went from my old PC to your old PC to my current PC, and I would guess I could build maybe a 50% larger base before something I could run on this machine at 90 UPS. No, the old machine at 90 UPS would run on this machine at about 60 UPS. It's not that much of a difference. Whereas GPUs have flown up. But in the last decade, it's more cores. It's more cores. It's more threads. We've gone from a quad core being something you pay an absolute premium for a quad core to be stock standard on a laptop. Just because that's how CPUs have gone. They've gone many, many, many more threads and can't push that core gigahertz much faster. But yeah, he does have a side note down the bottom. You might ask, why do we bother caching the terrain in the first place, not just re-render it from scratch every time? Short answer is because Factorio's terrain rendering is insane due to its complicated tile transition rules, and re-rendering every frame is just not fast enough. And on top of that, I would say once you've rendered it, why would you want to re-render it? If you can copy and paste stuff, that seems like the core essence of Factorio. Like, you make a smelter once, you copy it, and you paste it for the rest of that particular game.
Automate it.
Yeah,
minimize work.
Pretty much.
It's really how your approach to software in general is. You want to be minimizing work the system does in the first place.
Yeah, and look, it's one of the things that Woob has definitely excelled at. They really they really, really look for these core optimizations. And yes, they have written an optimization that will only affect you if you happen to be running an integrated GPU from 10 years ago. But there are people out there that run integrated GPUs on a laptop that's 5 years old, which will also notice a benefit from this update. And I'm assuming...
I tried on my laptop.
I have one laptop that probably wouldn't even boot Factorio, and I have my older laptop, which is 8 years old. And when it boots Factorio, even the older versions, it overheats within 20 minutes. But that's what old laptops do. They just don't like anything. And that actually has a dedicated graphics card. It's a... actually, it's not even as good as this one. A Radeon R360. I think it's got a 270 in it. Yeah, 8-year-old laptop. 8-year-old laptop. Maybe it's older than that now. I can't remember. 8 years sounds about right.
Time flies, doesn't it?
It does. It does. So, yeah. That's pretty much it for this Friday Facts. Now... do you have anything you want to add, Mojo, before we finish with this Friday Facts? Okay, I do have something I want to add. So, this is a really short Friday Facts. And then last Friday Facts, we had Clonan put in three like community, whatever you want to call it. Community announcements, bits from the community, which was really awesome. I love seeing devs like highlight stuff from the community. And I have to say, with this Friday Facts being so short, I'm sort of wondering why they didn't include something from the community. Like,
no events or anything?
Well, events would be great. Like, I know Biter Battles tournament is going to be starting soon-ish. But we also know from their previous Friday Facts, where they write the workflow of the Friday Facts, they plan the Friday Facts a week in advance. So they would have known a week in advance that they have a very, very short Friday Facts. Or potentially have a very, very short Friday Facts.
They plan these in advance?
Yep, we covered it in the previous Friday Facts. Pay attention, Mojo. So, like, surely they could have reached out to some community that was maybe doing something and said, hey, you got anything great we could put in the Friday Facts because we're short? Or, like, I did a highlight on a mod, which is the first time I've seen a mod like this that repainted the character from possibly a male engineer, because I had lots of people complain that the engineer's not male, to a definitely female engineer.
The chibi one.
Yeah, I think it's called Gear Girl. I did a video on it like a week and a half ago. But like it's one of those things that we could have included in the Friday Facts, just as a short highlight. Hey, this is something that's happened last 2 weeks. The Friday Facts don't have to be exact, so it could have happened any time in the last month, as long as it's still somewhat relevant. And it just would have been cool to see. Or, like, that more streamers are adding Twitch APIs to interact with Factorio, whilst the game's playing, and how Archon works, because that's something that I don't think has been covered by a Friday Facts ever. Maybe it has.
I don't think anyone really knows how that works. It's just a bit of a mystery.
Yeah, it's documented, I believe. It's documented, and that's how we managed to get it work. But, like, it's just something like that. Just, I would have liked to have seen a slightly longer Friday Facts, and even if they used a fluff, a filler piece or whatever from the community, it would have been nice to see, rather than possibly the other week where we had 3 sort of dumped in one on top of one another. Maybe
or even trying to make up your own fluff and filler material.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my only thoughts / comments. We could definitely go over sound that came out in 18.4 because there were more sound tweaks. It just seems short. Anyway, we still managed to make this a reasonably long video because we're good at that. We ramble and sidetrack all the time.
Good at stalling.
Yeah, not intentionally. It just happens. All right. You should hear the pre-video and the post-video. Like they're twice as long as the Friday Facts.
Anyway, yeah, they're usually an hour long either way.
Yeah, before and after. Yep. So that's it. We're out. Anything else? No.
Nope. Already out of here.
Okay. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye-bye.